I hope you're ready for this episode of the Rock and Roll Fireside, because within it we are talking about something super controversial and super taboo. And guess what? It didn't used to be, but now even within the walls of our own congregations, we are afraid to talk about this very subject. And my question is, why? Why have we become afraid to talk about defending the life of the unborn? In this episode, I sit down with Jessica Spackman, the founder of the organization Latter-day Saints for Life. We talk about why this has all of a sudden become controversial for members of the church, why we're afraid to talk about this, and what we can do to really champion the life of the unborn. So buckle up, get ready to learn, get ready to comment, and let's dive right in. Welcome to the Rock and Roll Fireside featuring Brother Jacob's Jams. I am your humble host, Kyle Jacobs. Thanks for joining me today. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe and share. Get ready to comment. And also check out the music of Brother Jacob's Jams. I'm putting a playlist right here for you if you want to check it out on YouTube, but you can hit it up on Spotify and iTunes as well. Really music that is going to pump you up and get you ready for the day. So as I said in the intro, I sat down with the wonderful Jessica Spackman of Latter-day Saints for Life to talk about a couple of things that at least have been on my mind and to understand what Latter-day Saints for Life as an organization is doing to help champion the defense of the life of the unborn. So let me ask you a question. It's the same question that I asked Jessica right off the bat. Have you noticed that more members of the church are embracing abortion and they're pushing it, and it is a part of something that they believe in? I have. I know that that's anecdotal, but as I look at social media posts and even conversations with members in my ward, I'm seeing that a lot more often. That's not been the case forever. Why is that happening? Is this really controversial? Is this something that we as a church should be divided on? My initial thought on this was like, well, as the church grows, we get more converts into the church. It's natural that we're going to have a lot of differences of opinion on things. And, that's a part of the unification, the grafting of the branches into the house of Israel. That is a natural thing. But that's not what's happening according to Jessica. So check this out. There seems to be more and more people who are like, yeah, abortion's great. And I'm like, wait a minute. You either don't understand what abortion is or you don't understand the doctrines of the church. And I know that that's way too, thinking too much black and white. But have you seen an increase in that, or am I just tripping?
So it's really difficult to make that claim. There's a little bit of Pew Research, but that's only over 10 years, and it's not totally clear if that's really accurate based on our population size in the United States. And again, that's only relevant for members of the church in the United States. But I would wager to guess that in the United States, probably in that Mountain West area, the last 10 to 20 years, I would say that members have become, generally speaking, more pro-abortion, or as they would probably say, pro-choice, and less anti-abortion or pro-life. But it's really going to vary. So I don't know if it's really easy to make a sweeping claim. And in the last 3 years, if anything, I don't know if I'd say it seems like a lot of people's minds have been changed. Hopefully more for life. It's hard to say for sure, but I would say that it seems that more will become more vocal, have become more vocal, no matter how they feel about it.
Oh, so either on the pro or anti, people are basically coming to the stage and speaking their mind a little bit more. Is that what you're saying?
I think so, just with abortion being at the forefront of United States news cycles and political discussions and such, I feel that it is more commonly brought up, including in Latter-day Saint circles. And I would feel that generally Latter-day Saints have followed, at least in the United States, the trend in the last many generations to more pro-abortion. But again, Pew Research looks like we are among the more pro-life religions, but it seems that many young people especially are less so. Yeah.
I've thought about why that would be, because again, I'm usually shocked when I find a Latter-day Saint who is pro-choice. And I don't like that label being pro-choice, because I'm like, I'm pro-choice too, but not in that way. We have our agency. Agency is great. But I've thought about how some of that swing has happened. And it just gets me thinking. I think it's a natural outcropping of our missionary efforts, honestly, because it's not like when people get baptized, they're like, well, are you pro-abortion or are you not? There are questions. I mean, at least when I was on my mission, there were questions about whether or not you've participated in an abortion, and if the answer was yes, then there was a few other steps that needed to happen before they could get baptized. I'm not sure if that's the case nowadays. So anybody who is watching, jump in the comments and let me know. Is that still part of the baptismal interview questions for new converts? So that'd be great to know. But it does seem that whenever, as we cast this wide net, the gospel is for everyone, and so something that is such a hot button topic, or really held belief in the political sense or anything like that, it's not like those just naturally automatically fall away when you convert to the church. So it makes sense that, like, okay, we see more members who are embracing this type of thing.
So I think that's an interesting point. I hadn't thought about that so much because I'll tell you what I see. I think it's actually the born into the covenant members of the church that have driven a lot of the swing. And
Really?
I'll tell you exactly why. So it's a top-down thing, but it's also, I think, even more so a bottom, I guess, bottom to bottom thing.
Yep.
Not necessarily bottom,
Horizontal.
yeah, horizontally.
Yeah.
So if you look top down, if you look at the general conference talks that have mentioned abortion or taught about the sanctity of life, there's this huge dearth of like 20 years from like the 90s to through the 2000s that it's mentioned almost zilch, almost not at all, by almost anybody. Now, if you go back farther, you'll see that even all the way back to really early days of the church, we see prophets counseling against feticide and infanticide, which feticide is another word for abortion. But there was this big time where it wasn't spoken about. And that's my generation.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what am I, late 20s? And part of what was so driving for me to start Latter-day Saints for Life was seeing what the reaction was among my peers when I started speaking out about abortion. To illustrate, I'll tell you a specific story. Have you heard of the movie Unplanned?
Yeah, was that the Amazon? There was one on Amazon. I don't know.
think it is actually on Amazon.
Yeah,
But
okay.
it's not an Amazon film. I think they just have it there
Okay.
now. It's by Pureflix. But it was the coming of this film that was really pivotal to my becoming pro-life, to even learning about the abortion issue. I ran into this movie, a promotion for it, online, and when I learned about it and when I watched it, I was totally floored by the absolute spiritual nature regarding abortion, and I dove straight in, and then I started searching, like, why hasn't my church been talking about this? All these other Christians are talking about this. And I looked on the church website, and I was shocked to find all these general conference talks about abortion, and to find scriptures in that talked about protecting children.
Yeah.
And the gravity of doing so, the gravity of taking the life of children, and how consistent the church has been. And I was like, why didn't anybody tell me this at all? I was a returned missionary at this point, and married in the temple. So when this movie came out, Students for Life, a pro-life group for young people, said, if you bring a pro-choice person to this movie, we'll pay for your movie ticket.
No way.
So, yeah, I went to the movie theater several times with different people. And one friend I invited, I wasn't sure how pro-choice she was, but I knew she was kind of feminist. So I reached out to her and I said, hey, do you want to go see this movie? She said, yeah, I'd love to see what the other side has to say. This friend, I had gone to seminary with me all through high school. We were on missions at the same time. So, I thought we were, kind of in the same place spiritually. And she did, to her credit, she totally came and watched the whole movie. She kind of scoffed all the way through. And then the whole drive home for 30, 45 minutes, she just talked my ear off about how terrible of a movie it was, how it was fully propaganda, that women need abortion, that all of this was lies, and I was like just kind of stunned
Yeah.
that 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 was my experience, that was my conversation that I had with her. Because I mean, this was one of the first friends I took to the theater, so I
Yeah.
kind of guessed that my friends who were pro-choice just didn't know. They didn't know anything,
Yeah.
and I came home and I thought about it, and I realized she didn't know, but she had heard from the world first.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
this is the biggest issue, that parents, seminary teachers, ward leaders, young men and young women leaders, they are absolutely terrified to talk about abortion, so
Yeah.
they don't do it. And they send off their young adults into the world, or they give them an iPhone now at age 10 years old or whatever, and
Uh-huh.
the world is going to tell them about it and tell them what to believe. And once that's there, it's pretty hard to change their minds. I believe that
It's
it can happen, and it has, but
yeah.
that this is what has happened with the young people, and I think it's actually getting slightly better. I hope,
Yeah.
but
Well, I'll tell you, that is super profound because it's the same kind of conversation. I think for the last few years, it is a lot more, it's a lot less taboo to start telling parents, like, hey, you need to talk to your kids about pornography earlier than you think that you should.
mhm.
Like, because there's a certain generation that's like, oh, by 12 or 13, we'll have the birds and bees talk. We'll talk about pornography then. Man, the research is like by 8 years old, these kids are exposed to this type of thing. And I had never thought about that when it comes to conversations regarding abortion. Why? I guess I know the answer to this already, but I'm interested in your thoughts. Why would somebody of faith, a seminary teacher or a bishop or a parent, be afraid to talk about that? I know we live in this constant shield of like, don't offend anyone. Is it as simple as that? We're just afraid to offend people?
2 words. It's political.
Okay.
People think because it has anything to do with politics, we can't talk about it.
Ah.
Even though it is political, but more than that, it's doctrine. It's
Yeah.
doctrinal. This is
Yep.
what we believe. We believe that we chose to come to Earth, that we were here to form families, and that it is a sin to kill people.
Right.
It's not being political to talk about that at church.
Right. Which is one reason why the church has issued statements on it. They have it on the website. And I don't think that they say necessarily it's a political issue, but they do say this is a moral issue. And that's typically the only time that the church actually says something that is in that arena. The problem is politics gobbles everything up. Anything can be political. Football is now political, and it just drives you crazy a little bit. But I think that is so right on the money, where it's like we're afraid to talk politics. The church doesn't have a stance on politics, and so we can't talk about it. And it's like, no, this is not that.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to call out something you said. You said that it is a moral issue. And I want to say that it's not just a moral issue, it's the moral issue.
Ah,
I boldly believe that this is the greatest human rights violation ever by way of
uh-huh.
magnitude and gravity, because 73 million babies die every year through elective abortion, as estimated by the WHO.
Yeah,
That's like a medium-sized country
yeah,
dead every year.
yeah.
1/3 of my generation is dead. I'm I'm missing 1/3 of my friends. This is why we're a friendless generation, millennials and Gen Z. We don't have any
Uh-huh.
friends because
Right.
they're gone.
One thing that I think we're afraid of is having conversations and talking about controversial topics as the world sees as controversial, because we're not exactly sure what the church's stance is on it. Obviously, the church doesn't reply on every single political thing out there. And as a matter of fact, they rarely do. They rarely touch anything that is solely in the political sphere. One thing that I think is really important, and I hope we get from this episode almost more than anything else, is that we can be absolutely confident on our stance here in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints regarding elective abortion. The doctrine is clear, and prophets and apostles and the handbook have made it very clear what our stance is, which means we should have confidence talking about this. Check this out. I really, really love the last few years we've had. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here. I think 3 different talks on abortion, 2 by Elder Anderson, and then before President Nelson was the prophet, he talked about abortion in the early 2000s, right? I
Yeah,
have there been more?
he gave his general conference a talk on fully on abortion, 100% all about it, called Reverence for Life, in the 70s or 80s. And then he later, maybe 10 to 20 years later, published an Ensign article that was very similar, titled Abortion and Assault on the Defenseless.
Mm.
And anyone who wants to find all the general conference talks that have spoken about abortion can find them compiled on our website, latterdaysaintsforlife.org/library. And there are over
Awesome.
300 sources that discuss the sanctity of life, many general conference talks over, I mean, as far back as we have them recorded that talk
Yeah.
about abortion and also feticide. So, I
Okay.
mean, it's very consistent, yes.
Yeah. So let's jump into that a little bit. So, because I want to know, like, boots on the ground, what does Latter day Saints for Life do? So, on your website, you've got that compiled. That's going to be a great resource. Everybody, check that out. I know I'm going to. What else do you guys do?
Yeah, so our mission is threefold. We are involved in gathering, education, and service. So, number one, gathering, we invite everybody, every Latter day Saint who considers themselves pro life, who wants to declare that, yes, I am. They can go to our website and just fill out the form to sign their name, to say, yes, I am a Latter day Saint for life. And that, I do believe, is making a difference because um, not only does it allow other Latter day Saints and even church leaders to see us and to understand, wow, we are not alone, we are united in this, and it's encouraging others to also stand up for life, and it's a testament to friends of other religions who don't
Mm,
know that we're pro life. So
okay.
and that's been a big part of it. Number two, we do education, so we will come and do presentations. We offer a lot of free resources on our website, especially things like our home evening guides. And we believe that, as we've learned in Come Follow Me, that the church is home centered and church supported. And
Uh-huh.
we want to further support the home. These kinds of sensitive discussions should be first taught by parents to their children. And
Yeah.
that's a really great place to start. There's resources there that can help. We don't
Yeah.
have to use those, but that we've found is one of the most important places to start. Like I said, if you don't teach your children at home, the world is going to teach them too.
Yep.
We have other educational resources there as well, and we're there to support. And then also service. We send people out, we connect them with other pro-life organizations, help them to find a pregnancy resource center in their area that they can support, and we provide ideas for how to do service projects with your Relief Society to start to make a difference in your own community. So it's really all about encouraging our members to take this and follow the Spirit and do what they feel they need to do to protect preborn lives in their communities.
So, how are we supposed to have productive conversations about this topic with somebody who may disagree on the most foundational aspect of this topic, which is life and when it starts and at what point do we need to respect life? I asked this question of Jessica, and here's what she had to say. In your conversations and in the research that you've done, is there any help or tips for those who know that it is true that they are that fetuses are alive and uh, they want to make that defense, but I mean, if you're talking to a brick wall, it's no good. Like, is there any talking point that you can recommend for something like that?
Yeah, there are a few things. First of all, know who you're talking to. Um,
Mm,
I wouldn't bring up what President Nelson has said to a person who doesn't believe he's a prophet.
right.
So, uh,
That's true.
but I mean, if they do believe he's a prophet, then I would absolutely direct them to his talk, and then they'll have to decide for themselves if they believe it.
Yeah.
I think there are two big helpful things in teaching about the reality of life in the womb. And number one is fetal development, which is another great way to start teaching your children also. Just,
Mhm.
hey, this is what babies do when they're 3 weeks after conception, they already have a heartbeat and they're moving around and they're doing, they have all their fingers and toes by the end of the first trimester. They're real babies. They're human beings. You can show them pictures, and that really can be extremely impactful. We
Yeah.
also know that the abortion industry, if they do take an ultrasound of the baby in the womb before doing an abortion, they many times will not show the woman because they don't want her to see her baby. They don't want that reality to be exposed. So that
Yeah.
can make a big difference. The other thing is, tragically, exposing the reality of what happens in an abortion.
Hmm.
Because why would we need to starve it to death if it's not a person? Why
Yeah.
would we need to? I mean, it's really gruesome. I don't know how maturely rated to go onto your podcast, but I encourage people to go check out abortionprocedures.com if you haven't. It's animated videos, so
Yeah.
it's as not gruesome as possible, but it's really difficult to deny the reality of what that is, and that's part of what was so moving about the aforementioned movie Unplanned.
Yeah.
It also
Well,
discusses.
and I'm really glad that you brought that up because it does take a huge amount of courage to jump into something so heavy. Like once you realize what that is all about, it's almost unbearable to think about. And I'll share with the audience here before this interview started. So today is September 10th, 2025, and Charlie Kirk was just assassinated. And we almost didn't have this meeting because it's somber and it is sad and it causes anger. And I almost texted you and just said maybe we reschedule because I feel heavy and dark after the events of today. And you said something that was really, really profound. And would you mind relaying what you told me before this episode started?
If I can
Word for
possibly
word. It's got to
repeat
be
it.
exact, right?
Um, it will not be word for word, but the sentiment is that, sadly, if you do delve into doing pro-life things in any sort of consistent way in your life, then you can be subject to a lot of really sad moments, a lot of tragedy because of the amount of loss. And there's also a lot of really amazing moments too when a life is saved, and
Yeah.
that's incredibly rewarding. But there's a lot of sadness too,
Yeah.
and it's an important thing to take that sadness, hold it, and turn it to Christ so that He can help you to turn it to something good, because He turns beauty from ashes, and He can turn this weakness of your spirit into a strength and a gift to others.
Yeah.
And it's always worth striving to do that.
That is so good, and it's a heroic effort to be able to do that, to kind of stare that in the face and keep moving forward, because we are not meant to run away from danger or hate or evil. We are meant to confront it and to defeat it. And I know that there are times, like today, for me, anger and fear can really jump in. You fear for your children and the life the world that they have to live in, and it can be just so overwhelming. But you can't back down from that. Like, we are not here to recoil and hide. We are here to fight and to have courage. And so I love what you said there about taking it to the Savior and laying that on him. And that's where you derive all your courage, because the things that he faced, he knows the things that we face. And that's a part of the atonement. It's not just repentance. It is taking on our afflictions and our trials and the sadness and the heaviness and the darkness of the world fall under that umbrella of the afflictions and trials. And so leaning on him to gain that courage. What else have you done to be able to day in, day out, keep that momentum and keep adding to that repository of documents and keep putting these things on? What keeps your drive that high?
A lot of prayer and fasting, for sure. And there's just trying to be really close to the Spirit and not wasting time on things that are going to drive it away, because you can't afford it, or else you're not going to make it. And I think that's the reality of our world. At least everyone, I think, is going to come to that place. President Nelson is born of that in coming days it will not be possible to survive spiritually without the constant guiding support of the Spirit. Something like that. I might have been something like that. But this is just something that will amplify it if you look evil in the face of abortion, which is difficult. But I also can really testify that it's been one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done, and one of the ways in which I can feel closest to the Spirit and closest to God, because I know and have been confirmed many times that this is His work of bringing about eternal life, and that life starts mortally in the womb. And to do anything that we can to help support that, it's rewarding to feel Him smile upon you for it.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I love it. Thank you for that. So, what can we do to help? How, if somebody wants to jump into this, aside from being able to partake of all of your work, how can we give back? What do you need from us?
Everybody can sign the pledge and partake in the gathering, the step 1. Come into our little group, Latter-day Saints for Life, if you feel so guided. It's not as necessary as being baptized or anything. Like, we're not replacing those essential covenants or anything, but it's an opportunity, and we hope that you feel it as an opportunity to just come in. If you don't have anything else to offer, you're like, okay, I can send my name. I can do this.
Yeah.
And that will get you hooked up, and you'll get our newsletters, and you'll find lots more opportunities to serve. If you want to do more, you can check out more opportunities on our website. If you're a person of means, we love donations. And we hope that you would entrust us with that so that we can then turn it for good. Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, Jessica. I really, really enjoy this. You are really doing the Lord's work. And I know probably on social media, you may get hate, you may get arguments and things like that, but you've got people on your side. You are doing the right thing. And I know you know that. You've gotten that confirmation from the Lord. But it's an inspiration to me and to hopefully the people who watch this episode to get up and get on that hill and plant the flag and really speak up for life, because it is our most basic and cherished right. So thank you for what you're doing. In this interview with Jessica, one of my absolute favorite things that she invited us to do, and I will leave you with this invitation as well, talk to your children about this. She mentioned that if you don't do it, the world will, and they will grow up thinking that abortion is some sort of right, that it is some sort of good thing. If you don't talk to your children about it, the world will. So be bold. Don't be afraid to have those conversations. Because guess what? Our children are smart enough, they're bold enough, and they know truth when they hear it. So have those conversations. You guys, I know that this conversation, that this interview may have made you a little uncomfortable. There are a lot of variables that people like to pick apart when it comes to this debate. But I hope that this interview with Jessica has been able to put your mind at ease about the nature of the doctrine of the church regarding this, and exposed you to some of the resources that are out there. So Latter-day Saints for Life, I cannot wait to dive deeper into that website just for the sheer amount of information and courage that's going to be held therein. So once again, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. Let's keep the comments respectful if we can, please. I know this is a hot button topic, but thank you so much for hanging with me, and let me know your thoughts. And don't forget to live with faith and courage. We'll see you next time.